coming up. The university thought Silent Sam had moved on, but now it's back to the drawing board. We'll have the latest on the controversial statue.
And UNC researchers may have made a game-changing discovery in the fight against HIV.
From the UNC Hussman School of Journalism and Media, connecting Carolina's campus and community, this is Carolina Week.
Good afternoon and welcome to Carolina Week. I'm Adam Jordan.
And I'm Elizabeth Holmes. Let's get right to our top story. It's the big question on campus. What will the university do with Silent Sam? UNC thought it had found a solution, but a judge ruled against it. Reporter Jilly Kuhn has the latest.
Being the law of this case,
members of the system board of governors thought they had figured out what to do with the controversial statue, Silent Sam, that had stood on campus for 115 years. Handed off to the NC Division of the Sons of Confederate Veterans, along with $2.5 million for upkeep. But that settlement is now void.
People were creating anonymous Twitter accounts to send me direct messages anonymously to feed me information.
That's Durham lawyer Greg Doucette, who previously sat on the Board of Governors. The proposed settlement compelled many disgruntled members of the SCV to anonymously feed him insider info. One message caught his eye.
Said, look, I've got something I want to send you. Can't tell you what it is. I know you're going to want to see it, but you can't mention my name because if you do, I'm probably going to be killed.
It was an email sent from SCV Commander Kevin Stone, who wrote that even if his organization filed suit, it would have been challenged and dismissed on the basis of their lack of legal standing or claim to the monument. The court affirmed this.
I am going to find that the judgment is void.
And the SCV will not get ownership.
Up until this point, it was as if Silent Sam faded into the past. He's not here anymore. That's because back in 2018, protesters toppled him here in McCorkle Place. But now that the judge voided the $2.5 million settlement with the Sons of Confederate Veterans, the fate of the settlement is again unclear.
As part of their case, both UNC and the Sons of Confederate Veterans admitted that Silent Sam was a safety hazard.
Lindsay Ailing, UNC doctoral candidate and political activist, says the monument can't go back up because of the threat it poses to the community. Ailing herself has received death threats for her opinions about the statue from neo-Nazi groups.
When they started releasing my home address and saying that they were going to come to my house and kill me, I had to learn how to shoot and got a gun.
Safety hazard or not, the Sons of Confederate Veterans not only want the monument returned to campus, but expect it to go back up, writing that they now expect UNC to follow the monument's law and return the Boy Soldier Memorial to McCorkle Place. That law is designed to protect all state-owned monuments from removal. Silent Sam, not on campus, but not gone. More than a year since it was toppled, its future remains as unclear as it was the night it came down. Jilly Kuhn, Chapel Hill, North Carolina.
Thank you to the News and Observer and WRAL for that incredible footage. The UNC Board of Governors has asked the judge who voted for the settlement to help them get the statue and the $2.5 million settlement back.
A UNC student is facing some serious charges after bringing a firearm to his dorm room. Reporter Mihai Lukacs has the latest.
You may have received a notification on your LiveSafe app, or if you've checked your Hill Mail recently, saw an email from Alert Carolina. But it's right here at Corey Residence Hall that UNC police arrested a UNC student. Up until Sunday, Caleb Randall Axe, a 20-year-old global studies major, lived in Corey Residence Hall. He was even serving as an RA. But an anonymous tip to authorities alerted them that Axe was in possession of a rifle. UNC police say the tip was the result of the gun being shared via social media. Axe was arrested on site and has been banned from campus. He is facing a charge of possessing a gun on educational property, a felony in the state of North Carolina. While UNC police was unavailable for comment, the university flat out refused to comment, citing that, quote, "This is an ongoing police investigation, so the Alert Carolina informational is all we have to provide at this time." Now again, as UNC police say, the investigation is ongoing, but we'll keep an eye on the situation as it develops. In Chapel Hill, I'm Mihai Istvan-Lukács, Carolina Week.
We reached out to Axe to give us his side of the story. He says he is taking this incident very seriously and wants to emphasize that he in no way intended to harm anyone.
If you drive on Franklin Street, you should expect some delays this week. Each weeknight from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m., the westbound lanes toward Carborough and the sidewalk from the post office to the CVS pharmacy will be closed. This closure is due to a crane being installed for roof work. Officials say one lane in each direction will remain open, and the south side Franklin Street sidewalk will also remain open as usual.
What started as a joke now has more than 1,000 people RSVP'd on Facebook. Similar to last year's National Storm Area 51 event, someone created a Storm Gimghoul Castle event. Gimghoul Castle, located off UNC's campus, is home to the Order of the Gimghoul. The castle has often been a source of curiosity for UNC students. The event coordinator posted on the Facebook page that they had been contacted by Chapel Hill police and not to actually show up to the castle.
The crosswalks around downtown Chapel Hill are getting a little more colorful. On Rosemary Street, West Cameron Avenue, East Rosemary Street, and at Shortbread Lofts, the 4 colorful crosswalks are all part of a campaign by Chapel Hill's Community Arts and the Culture Division to enhance downtown experience.
I believe the committee's interest was twofold. One was to try to improve pedestrian safety in downtown areas, and then secondly, a more public arts interest to bring arts into the everyday lives of people as they walk around downtown Chapel Hill.
All 4 crosswalks were designed by local artists and all reference the town of Chapel Hill and the university. The town says it's planning to install more public art in the area, making the community even more vibrant.
Coming up, we've been hearing rumors all week that snow could be on the way. But are they true? Our weather forecast is after the break.
What would happen if I had to pick up the phone, call 911 for one of my family members or one of my neighbors? What would I do if no one was on the other end to respond? What if there was no 911? So you can be a part of the solution.
Anybody can be a firefighter, male, female, younger, older.
We have school teachers, we have leaders in business.
It's me, you, anyone that wants to be.
There is no typical firefighter.
HIV affects about 38 million people worldwide.
But a new discovery by UNC researchers could change all that. Reporter Peyton Furtado has the story.
Carolina scientists have discovered a way to find latent HIV cells. Latent, or dormant cells, have plagued HIV research for decades. They're the reason we can't completely cure HIV, and they're undetectable until now.
So we've been working on this idea for almost 20 years now, designing approaches and drugs to specifically try to turn on the virus and sort of bring it out into the open and expose that infected cell to the immune system and allow it to be cleared.
Along with other researchers, Dr. David Margolis found a way to activate latent cells harboring the HIV genetic information. If this method is successful in humans, doctors could both destroy and flush the virus out into the open.
It works, one, better, and is also safe and tolerable in 2 different animal models. So not just in mice, not just in monkeys, but in both. I think everyone in the field is looking for that incremental knowledge that's going to get us closer.
While this is a big step, the cure to HIV is still a ways down the road, but many hope they'll see it in their lifetime. Nurse Jonah Pierce told me how he approaches this with his patients.
People are working very, very hard, and that I do believe that some form of cure is going to happen in my lifetime, but that the really cool thing is that we have medicines that are easier to take than they once were, that have less long-term side effects. The most important thing they can do is to do everything they can to stay healthy right now so that when it comes along, they'll be ready for it.
Researchers hope to be able to test their findings on humans as early as next year. From Chapel Hill, I'm Peyton Furtado, Carolina Week.
The UNC researchers' findings have been published in the leading science journal, Nature.
There's a place at Carolina where Mediterranean hospitality meets Southern hospitality. The result? Empathy and generosity. Reporter Maureen Aaliyah has more.
Mediterranean Deli is a pillar of the Chapel Hill community, for more than just being a favorite lunch spot. For 5 years, Med Deli has employed Syrian refugees to help them integrate into the community. Owner Jamil Kaddour is a refugee who fled Palestine during the 1970 Israeli-Palestinian War.
Refugees in general has a very special place in my heart because I was one of them with the refugees when they came in. But it was just like I'm looking in the mirror because at one time I was in the same exact situation. So I really wanted to help. It was a very special thing for me to do. It was almost like a mission.
He remembers the chaos brought on with the arrival of food relief trucks at his camp.
I was under people's feet. They were stepping at me. You know, I was a kid. You know, I was 7 years old, and one of the men realized it and he pulled me out. You know, I really believe that refugee camp affected me that way, where I wanted to help others.
He explains what makes the deli a good work environment for refugees.
There is work involved in it and patience and the part of the employer, and not to expect so much from them because they're emotionally stressed out emotionally and very sad.
Kaddour plans to continue supporting the community as it has supported him. In Chapel Hill, I'm Maureen Aaliyah, Carolina Week.
And there's something you can do to help refugees. Kaddour encourages students to give English lessons or maybe even show them around Chapel Hill.
Now it's time to take a look at our forecast with weather reporter Kayla Boswell.
Hey Heels, happy Wednesday. This week the weather is quite literally all over the place. So let's take a look at our 5-day forecast. Today the high is 51 and the low is 35, and it's going to be raining all day long. Tomorrow the weather is dropping significantly to 39 degrees, and it's going to be predicted snow flurries all day, so make sure when you're going outside to take your time when you're anywhere, because it might get messy. On Friday it's going to be 39 as well, but it might feel better because it's going to be sunny. Saturday and Sunday the weather is going to be in the mid-50s with highs of 53 and 57. It'll be sunny, so it's going to feel a lot better. The lows for the week are going to be in the mid-20s. So make sure every day besides tomorrow to get outside because it will be nice. Back to you guys in the studio.
For the second time in 6 months, Senator Bernie Sanders has held a campaign rally in the Triangle. Reporter Jackson Lanier has more on Sanders's and other Democratic candidates' chances of winning the North Carolina primary.
Bernie Sanders' campaign rally in Durham was short, with the 2020 presidential hopeful speaking for less than 30 minutes. Though the Vermont senator took the time in his speech to attack one of his Democratic rivals, Michael Bloomberg.
Now, I understand that some of our opponents are billionaires and they're buying the airwaves. I got it. People understand there is something wrong when we have a corrupt political system that allows billionaires to buy elections.
Bloomberg has spent a record amount of money buying campaign ads and has spent $7.7 million on ads in North Carolina alone. Recent poll numbers show that Sanders, Bloomberg, and former Vice President Joe Biden are now within 3 percentage points of each other in North Carolina. While Sanders and Bloomberg are gaining ground in North Carolina, Biden has a large lead in the number of endorsements. Biden has been endorsed by 10 current and former North Carolina politicians, while Michael Bloomberg has been endorsed by 2 and Bernie Sanders by 1. Though last Thursday, Bloomberg received the biggest endorsement in the North Carolina Democratic primary race. Former North Carolina Governor Beverly Perdue endorsed Mike Bloomberg in Raleigh.
But I know with all my heart that he is going to be our next president, and he will be a great partner for North Carolina.
As the North Carolina primary on March 3rd gets closer, you can expect to see more presidential candidates visit the Tar Heel state. In Durham, I'm Jackson Lanier, Carolina Week.
The Democratic candidates are not the only ones holding rallies in North Carolina. President Donald Trump will be holding a rally next Monday in Charlotte.
We're in the midst of election season, but research shows young people are not exercising their democratic rights. Reporter Latasha Lagur has the story.
Now, there are 54 million people in this country around the age of 18 to 29. Now, that is a big group that could make a big difference here at the polls. But getting them to vote is not easy. Each election cycle, politicians come to colleges like UNC to rally. But does it help?
Older people vote, and they care about Medicare and Social Security. So politicians are going to make plans and talk about those types of programs.
And if campaigns are not enough, the community is also trying to encourage others to vote, but many have different views.
I don't think people realize what a blessed right this is we have to vote.
The political system hasn't been working for us, and a lot of people are understandably jaded by that.
Study shows that 18 to 29-year-olds make up the lowest percentage of 21% of overall voters. And even though this age group saw the greatest increase in 2018, they still made up the lowest percentage.
None of our issues are going to be represented if we're not coming forth and making our voices be heard at the ballot box.
College students don't need to show their photo ID here at the polls, and experts agree that they can make a difference, but the only question remains, will they? In Chapel Hill, I'm Natasha Laguerre, Carolina Week.
Now is prime time for students to be applying for summer internships. But how can students set themselves apart in a competitive application process?
Blake Morgan has some ideas in his weekly blender.
For many, the job and internship hunt is in full swing, and for those of you that have a job or internship, well, congratulations. And those that don't, here are some helpful tips that might make the process a little easier. University and departmental career service offices are employed specifically to get UNC students employed. Whether it's resume help, practice interviews, or putting you in contact with alumni, career services is a great place to start. Building your LinkedIn is also pivotal, as many employers spend more time perusing your online presence than your resume or cover letter, so controlling your digital footprint and your brand is imperative. You don't want to post from 2017 to be the reason you aren't hired. Lastly, don't feel like the process needs to be done alone. No one gets a job without a little help, and a fresh set of eyes and a new perspective from a friend can make all the difference. So, any leads?
Well, I'm still working on some, but I've taken your advice. I've gotten my resume looked at by some friends, writing out some cover letters, and we'll see where it takes me.
Sure.
Yeah, and I'm kind of working on updating my LinkedIn, and I even have a professional Instagram now that I'm working on,
Wow.
so
Nice.
trying to get that started too.
What about you?
Actually, I have started the process today. I'm submitting an application, so it's getting the ball rolling, but it's
good luck, yeah.
A little nerve-wracking, but I'll let you know how it goes. That's your weekly blender.
Is playing with Omaha in mind, having put together a perfect record so far this season.
This is the story of a boy who didn't talk for a long time. The boy liked things to always be the same. Any changes would scare and upset him. The unknown was an unfriendly place. The boy was very sensitive to lights and sounds. So he built secret hiding places where they couldn't get in. The boy didn't like looking people in the eye. He wasn't trying to be mean, it just made him feel uncomfortable. Sometimes he would flap his arms again and again.
One day I found out I had something called autism. My family got me help. Slowly, I found my voice and learned all the ways I could live with it better.
Early intervention can make a lifetime of difference. Learn the signs at autismspeaks.org.
Welcome to Carolina Week Sports. I'm Kennedy Bird. The men's basketball team continues to break fans' hearts, and Monday night's game against Notre Dame was no exception. It looks like the Tar Heels were playing their best basketball in weeks as they went up by 15 points with 9 minutes left in the game. But Notre Dame got hot and scored 30 points in the game's final 9 minutes. It was Nate Lazuski's three-pointer with 2.4 seconds remaining that sealed the deal. The Heels just short to the Fighting Irish 77-76. Loss in your UNC will end this season with a losing record. The Diamond Heels kept the momentum rolling Tuesday afternoon with a convincing 7-1 victory against the Elon Phoenix. Junior Caden O'Brien paved the way for Carolina on the mound with an impressive 7 strikeouts in just 3 innings of work. Kyle Mott relieved O'Brien in the 4th and gave the Heels a very solid one-hit performance to silence the Elon batters. Freshman catcher Eric Grintz continued the hot start to his UNC career with a perfect 4-for-4 performance at the plate. While driving in for Tar Heel runners, the Heels will be back in action this afternoon at 3 to take on High Point. The softball team also had a midweek matchup on Tuesday against close neighbor NC Central. The Heels weren't too neighborly though. Carolina roughed up Eagles pitchers for 11 hits, including this one by freshman Bree Stubbs. The Heels hit 3 homers in a game for the first time this season. Get on out of here. And Hannah George had 7 strikeouts. The Heels blank the Eagles 7-0 and will take on James Madison today at 4 p.m. to wrap up their 7-game home stand. The men's tennis team battled in the ITA National Championship matchup against Southern California Monday afternoon. The second-ranked Trojans proved to be too much for the Heels, winning handily in the finals, 4-1. Carolina finishes as the national runner-up. The women's gymnastics team took on the New Hampshire Wildcats in an Eagle meet in Carmichael Arena on Monday night. The Heels started on vault where Kaja Hislop received a 9.9 and took first in the event. The Heels moved to bars where you see Elizabeth Colton land her dismount for first place with a score of 9.875. On the beam where Colton once again perceives first, posting a 9.825. The Heels finished the meet off with floor here where Hislop lands her dismount to take first place with a score of 9.9. The Heels posted their highest score this season and beat the undefeated Wildcats. That's all for sports. Back to you guys.
Thanks, Kennedy. And now to a story of a special bookstore in Chapel Hill.
While many people just buy their books online, Flyleaf Books is continuing to connect people through its emphasis on community. Reporter Annabeth Poe has more.
When you drive down Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard in Chapel Hill, you might miss it.
So it just looks like a kind of a suburban shopping center, but it's got some real treasures.
San Diego resident Chuck Hicks says Flyleaf Books is the shopping center's crown jewel. Before moving to California, Hicks says he visited Flyleaf pretty often. Now when he comes back to Chapel Hill for work, he still finds at least 3 or 4 books to take with him.
Somebody who obviously really loves books and literature, has put a lot of time and effort and love into a store like this.
And that someone is owner Jamie Fiocco. She opened Flyleaf with her husband Michael in 2009.
I was in publishing for 15 years before I opened it up, and I just love the book business, and I like to say that I've been on both sides of the counter.
At Flyleaf, on one side of the counter, there's a collection of over 1,000 books, 93% new and 7% used, of all types and genres. On the other, Fiocco says there's a staff of people dedicated to making sure customers feel welcome.
We try a lot of things, but we do reflect what our community wants and is interested in.
She says this goal is embodied in how the store connects to people through handwritten recommendations as well as through the events the shop hosts.
Thanks again for coming out, and without further ado, I shall introduce our artist and we'll go from there.
However, Fiocco says while the author events do bring people into the shop, at the end of the day, it's all about what's on the shelves.
We try to showcase the books and let them speak for themselves.
Fiocco says she hopes Flyleaf's books will continue to speak to people for years to come. In Chapel Hill, I'm Annabeth Poe, Carolina Week.
Thanks, Annabeth, for that story. I love little stores like that, and I had no idea that existed, so that's really cool. Have you read anything interesting lately?
Yeah, actually, I'm reading this book called Evicted. It's about housing and poverty in Michigan, so it's really interesting. It's a nonfiction, yeah. Yeah, what about you?
I'm also been on a nonfiction kick lately. I was reading this book called Everybody Lies, and it's just about data. It's kind of nerdy, but anyway. That does it for this edition of Carolina Week. Thanks for watching, and good night.